And good afternoon from Philadelphia. Frank here with another episode of UFO News Network Sunday. Today, on a Tuesday afternoon, we've got a very special guest lined up. And let me bring in my co-host, Shan Hanna, to introduce him.
Oh, hi, Frank. Thank you very much for the introduction. We have a very special guest on the show today. He is a highly respected journalist, political journalist based in Washington, D.C. He has a BA in War Studies, a Master's of Science in Middle East Politics, and a graduate diploma in law from the College of Law in London. In 2017, he joined the Washington Examiner as a commentary writer. On January 8th, 2018, the McLaughlin Group relaunched with Rogan as moderator. His website, TomRoganThinks.com, and the McLaughlin Group, McLaughlin.com. Tom, on September 27th, you said, forthcoming new evidence will further suggest that unidentified aerial phenomena as recorded by the U.S. Navy and others is intelligent operated machinery not of this earth. And you're standing by that. Wanted to go ahead and just jump right in. In your article, which was published today, The Real Reasons the U.S. Government is So Secretive About UFOs, you said, where does this leave us? With the need to keep pushing this issue, but also with confidence. It will take time, but we'll get to the truth eventually. My question to you is, what is the truth to you? What does it encompass? And the other question is, do you think the UN will pass any resolutions on the UAP topic?
Well, very good to be with you. I think the truth is that these aircraft, at least some of them, not simply in the incidents that are being proximate to the U.S. Navy's carrier strike groups and nuclear platforms, are in some cases from not from Earth, so from space somewhere in the galaxy. There is obviously been consideration as to whether some of these are from alternate dimensions, time, etc. But I think at least in some of the cases we're going to find out that they are from other worlds. So that is my understanding. Beyond that, I think there's a lot more to figure out.
Press 1 to accept this recording. Press 2 to listen to it.
Hang on
Press
a sec. Sorry
3
about
to
that.
re-record your message.
There we go.
Hello?
Tom, yeah, you still with it? Yeah, I had the other phone that we were using. I guess that was taking a very lengthy message. Sorry about that. I didn't disconnect that call. Okay, yeah, we're good to go. But Tom, really quick, what aroused your interest in this subject? Not a lot of folks in the Washington press corps are really digging in on it, and you made a pretty bold statement there at the end of September in the predictions section of the McLaughlin Group. What grabbed your attention about it? How'd you get into it all?
Well, I've always been fascinated by abilities based on its vast size and the complexity of the universe. But I think the original New York Times story in December 2017 piqued my interest. Certainly, I hadn't had a personal experience in terms of something to do with this phenomena, whatever that might be. It's been a sort of professional interest. And then in terms of talking to various sources of the government, active and former, and coming to the understanding that, they do not believe, that the consensus opinion is that this is not stuff, the UAP phenomena, whatever you want to call it, is at least in some cases not US, Russian, or Chinese. And the possibilities and the performance that we have seen, especially in terms of the Navy footage and the testimony there, gives you a range of data points and professional eyewitness analysis, certainly from someone in my position who tends to really be doing more sort of military coverage, conventional state coverage, to think there's something very serious and compelling going on here. And from that, I've just sort of gone on with it.
And the sources that you're getting this information from, are they Pentagon sources? Who are you talking to about this?
Well, I'm going to say, because it is a sensitive, it's obviously very sensitive, I'm going to say government, U.S. government persons in the field of, in the national security envelope. That's about as far as I want to go with that. But people who are, and I appreciate the fact that, your listeners and have to judge my, I guess, journalistic integrity instead of making these contentions as to whether they think I'm telling the truth or not. But I am telling the truth in terms of my the credibility of the individual I talk to on this.
Okay, Tom, China and Russia will never release files they have on the UFO topic. Do you think that statement is true? And just going along those lines, do you think Putin has more knowledge on the UFO topic than he's admitting? So again, China and Russia will never release files they have related to the UFO topic. Do you think that statement is true? And lastly, do you think Putin has more knowledge on the UFO topic than he's admitting?
Well, I mean, they may decide to release what information they have. I mean, there have been sort of some public studies that have been released already with some of what we know, at least in some of the Cold War stuff with Russian government funding. It's unlikely that they would release anything particularly compelling in the near to medium term, because the nature of those regimes is such that they see themselves in a great power struggle with the United States, and they would not want to, in the same way that I know that the United States would not want to, they would not want to give any hints or indications for cross-replication research that the US is doing. They wouldn't want to help the US figure out how to make some of this stuff work. In terms of Vladimir Putin's knowledge, yeah, I there has been a lot of talk around this. I mean, Lou Elizondo from to the Stars Academy, the Russians we do know certainly from declassified government documents, and in terms of the way my understanding how the Russian military-industrial complex operates and the intelligence services, they will go for anything that they think that can give them an advantage. And I think Vladimir Putin is, well, we know that in terms of his leadership style and character, he is someone who is willing to be unconventional if he can get results. So I don't think he would come at this with some of the prejudices that perhaps others in other governments would come at it.
Okay, and Tom, just want to let you know you're breaking up a lot, and you're also coming through a little muffled. So if you feel like you're in control of that, that would be great. The next question I have for you, which is sort of indirectly related to what I was talking about when I asked you the question I just did, is China built the world's largest telescope. They're very secretive, as you know, China is. If they received any info from any intelligences regarding that telescope, any data, would they share that with us or the world? And if not, why?
It's hard to say, but based on the nature of the Chinese Communist Party, which rules that country, I don't think they would be. The only way they would release, I think, information would be if they thought it was going to come out anyway, which would suggest that it had been detected from another platform outside of their control. So they would want to get ahead of the curve, or if they thought that doing so no unique opportunity. If they thought they could get some proprietary information from somewhere, someone that someone else did not have, they would not be sharing that, because it would give them, they would see an advantage over, again, other actors around the world, especially the United States.
Tom,
Okay.
you had mentioned that on the McLaughlin Group that there will be additional forthcoming evidence that we're going to get a chance to see. And can you discuss that a little bit? Is there a time frame for that, or what additional evidence might we be getting a chance to take a look at?
Well, I think we know quite clearly that the phenomena, especially as it pertains to nuclear satellites, both land, at sea, also potentially in space, actually, with some of the ICBM systems, has been a continuing point of contact. And the United States, Britain, which is also a nuclear power, have pretty extensive sensor platforms to monitor anything that goes near to those capabilities. And so there is, well, to put it simply, there is sensor data indicating things performing in ways that are beyond the capability of any Earth nation. And as that starts to come out more, which I think it will through freedom of information requests, through just towards declassification in certain areas, and I do think Britain will be a rising element of this in the future. It's hard to know when. That is what we're going to see. I mean, just essentially data corroborated in rarer cases, but some by individuals sort of operating the data collection platform, saying, look at this. And if you eliminate, again, it comes to that old Sherlock Holmes line that if you eliminate all the impossible factors, whatever you're left with must be the truth. And again, I think that is the critical component here. I also think if you've seen some of the testimony, Robert Hastings has documented this quite extensively in his book of these platforms, UAPs, engaging in behavior across the spectrum of sort of atmosphere, space, water. Then you get into another facet of, okay, well, what could possibly do that? And that is an important distinction, because as some people have, a couple of people saying this today in relation to my piece, well, maybe these are top secret US military platforms. The United States does not have platforms that can do all of these things. They might be able to do one thing in a limited degree, and actually with a different capability platform than that which is shown, but they cannot do all of these things.
Okay, Tom, you said in your article that you published today, I'll just go ahead and go straight into a quote, "But the truth is clear. If it wanted to, something strange could defeat America without raising a sweat." Do you see, Tom, any third world countries turning to other first world countries if a UAP were to enter their airspace and appear as a threat to them? By the way, just want to mention, Peter Davenport of the UFO Reporting Center has noticed there has been an incredibly high uptick on UFO reports in the last 2 years. So my question to you again is, do you see any third world countries turning to other first world countries if a UAP or UAPs were to enter their airspace and appear as a threat to them, which I believe may have happened before?
Yes, and I'm almost certain it probably already has happened, because the United States with nations, friendly governments, we would think about governments, for example, in Latin America, where military-to-military relationships between serving military officers or intelligence officers are often quite a lot stronger and more sort of casually enabled in terms of what they talk to each other about than the head of state level relationships. So, for example, if we talk about relationships between Mexican Air Force officers and U.S. Air Force officers, or Navy officers, etc., in the relationship counterposed between President Trump and President Lopez Obrador, there is incentive and trust to be able to engage with American officers who might be able to be in a position to provide more information and insight. So that is certainly very likely. And the same would be said of, we think about the former Soviet states and their continuing relationship with the Russian Federation, or states, as China's relationship builds with certain African states. The same could be said there. So yes, that is when you don't know something and you know someone in a position to know more and you trust them, it figures that you would go and ask them to provide any insight that they might be willing to give,
Tom,
either officially or unofficially.
Yeah, Tom, really quick, I know we're pressed for time here, but it sounds like a lot of your sources are coming from basically inside the military. Are you hearing anything about increased interest in Congress?
Well, we do know that, and Congress is, being quite open about this. This is a lot of this stuff you can sort of thread together from the open source domain in terms of what's said, but Senator Mark Warner, for example, was quite open about having received a briefing, and there's a video of him actually after receiving it. It is something that is being taken more seriously. And as an example, when you engage with the military now, the way in which it is handled through the Office of Secretary of Defense, various public affairs officials, reporting guidelines, the way the military sort of reacts, shows that the bureaucracy is grappling with it in a more expansive sense, even if elements of it continue to be very tightly held, separated from other elements for compartmentalization reasons, which is security, control over information reasons.
And one final question from me, and that is basically the discrepancies that we're getting from former insiders who are now out working in the private sector on this, most notably the To the Stars Academy, and statements coming from the Pentagon itself, from spokespeople, seem to be at odds. That a program, the ATIP program that was running for a while, was about UFOs. The Pentagon spokespeople, the official spokespeople, are saying no, it wasn't. Yet the people who are directly involved, including Senator Harry Reid, is saying, yeah, that's exactly what it was. How do you account for those discrepancies?
I think quite simply because the military, there will be some kind of document somewhere that would allow public affairs officers to say, or military officers to say, or officials, etc., to say, no, it wasn't about that, because the language in the authority for the document was passed specifically for that reason, to try and make it to blur the come out. But I think it is clear that is what the project was intended to do. Bureaucratic word games, because attention to it is uncomfortable, and military leaders sort of want it pushed away from the public domain in some sense.
Okay, Tom, I have a few questions left, and that is, do you think and you may have already touched on this topic, but you were breaking up pretty bad in the beginning, so we may have missed out on hearing you touch on this topic a little bit, and that is, do you think there is anything going on behind the scenes as far as the Pentagon goes, or any other faction of the U.S. government, or first world governments for that matter, green-lighting disclosure for future revelations on anything related to the UFO or UAP topic for the general public? I'll read that again. Do you think there's anything going on behind the scenes as far as the Pentagon is concerned, or other agencies, regarding green-lighting disclosure for future revelations on anything related to the UAP topic for the general public's consumption of it?
Well, yes, because the Freedom of Information Act evidence from the success of the Stars Academy getting those videos out in 2017, that the in terms of the Carrier Strap Group videos, and through my own Freedom of Information Act sort of efforts, there is more of a, I think, constructive feedback from the military. So I do think the process that there are individuals trying to get more stuff out disclosure-wise than before.
Okay. And I wanted to bring up something that you said in your article. Let's see if I can go ahead and actually, the question I have for you is, what is your takeaway, Tom, on the entire UAP topic in general? What have you learned about it as a journalist who covers politics, national security, intelligence, those kinds of things? What, again, is your takeaway on the UAP topic in general?
Well, while some of the sightings that are made are natural phenomena or misidentification of human objects or human-operated machinery, etc., that some of this stuff truly is not of this world. I mean, I think that is my top-line takeaway, and then you can get into various elements in terms of behavior patterns, trend lines in terms of nuclear connection point. Water seems to be something that either through whether it be a fuel source or concealment is another issue. So I mean, there is a lot there, but I think that some of this stuff truly is not of this world would be the top.
Okay. And then the last question I have for you is, as a nation, we have endeavored to build cataclysmic weapon systems such as a hydrogen bomb, for example, that can wipe out every living thing off the face of our planet. And we have things like that to secure our nation against threats of other possible threats from other nations around the world. Do you think the real threat that we have is not from other nations, but from an otherworldly type threat, such as another kind of intelligence that is not human? Do you think that's possible?
Well, I don't think there's any indication that there is an active intended threat, a deliberate threat, or at least I haven't seen. But I think in terms of behavior and the connection point, especially with the most powerful weapons we have, which are nuclear weapons, the UAP phenomena to that raises the obvious prospect of a specific potential of threat, and the ability of these platforms to detect our, which I referenced in the piece, our sort of vanguard nuclear deterrence forces. Right? If something can find very easily our submarines and can deactivate our missile forces, then that thing would have the ability to essentially render us defenseless at the apex of conflict, which is to say the area where we would either be able to or not able to defend ourselves against the highest level of debilitate our defensive posture. Then clearly they have the potential of a very serious threat, if not the threat itself, because of intent not being shown in that regard. So capability-wise, yes.
Okay. I just want to mention John McLaughlin. He was deeply influential as a journalist, from his deft expertise and knowledge of the topic at hand to the outstanding guests he handpicked for his shows, and his sharp wit and retorts he displayed on his iconic program, the McLaughlin Group, which you took over and resurrected. I just want to mention to you, he is one of the reasons why I actually do the shows I do. He was extremely, he made a lasting impact on me, and his show styles has influenced countless TV shows and millions of people around the planet. So thank you for having resurrected that show and become the moderator of it. I'm very grateful to you for that. And we're very grateful and honored to have had you on our show. I want to tell everybody to please go to TomRoganThinks.com and also www.McLaughlin.com. Let me spell that for everybody. It's McLaughlin.com. Tom, thank you for having been on our show today. Frank, did you have anything else to add?
Nope. One last question for you, Tom, before I let you go. What was the response of some of your co-panelists to your prediction about the UFOs? Pat Buchanan was on the show that day, Eleanor Clift, Clarence Page. What was their reaction to it?
Yeah, well, I actually referenced it again on a taping today, and thank you for those kind words. I know John would... thank you both as well. It's very kind of you and great to be on the show. But Pat Buchanan, I think, raised his eyebrows. I think Eleanor thinks I might be crazy. And then Clarence is sort of somewhere in between. So, one of the things here that certainly the same in journalism, when you write about this in the newsroom, there was sort of a couple of teasing comments today, although it got a lot of traffic, which is good because people are interested. It shows, but I think there are a lot of people there who still haven't been involved with the issue that much, and do see it as the preserve of slightly strange people, and so it takes time on referencing the arguments and the data to try and persuade people. But I think, if you remain persistent in your attention to those details, then with time you can persuade people.
Great. And Tom, the only other question I had left for you is wanted to know if you wouldn't mind considering joining us for another show, no matter how brief it would be, in 2020. We would love to have the opportunity and privilege of having you on our show again.
Well, I would love that. So thank you very much. And very good talking to you both.
Yes. Thanks so much for joining us on such short notice, Tom. Thanks a lot.
Yes,
and
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We are going to wrap this up quickly, and we will be back later tonight with the second show in one day. We're going to have Paco Chirici joining us tonight. So thanks, everybody, and bye-bye.